Hello, everybody.
What's going on, everyone? What's going on? Hello,
What is
everyone.
up? Hello,
What's
internet.
happening, internet? What's up?
Oh man,
Internet
great
is
to be back with you guys. The internet's back. Everybody got to
Internet's
see
back.
the
Finally.
eclipse or
Yeah,
whatever.
back.
Yep. So everybody got to see the eclipse.
In many ways, the internet never left, Ken. It's still providing
Yeah.
access to information to all of humanity for several decades.
How about that eclipse? How about that eclipse? I mean, when does the Death Star blot out the sun? I mean, because I said that's no moon. No, that's a space station. Like literally, no, that never came up in any meme anywhere on the internet. I mean, come on, guys.
Yeah, come on, internet, get it together.
Internet let me down. Might as well just go back to Morse code, as far as I'm concerned.
Morse code.
Yeah.
Oh man, damn it, internet.
Well, I'm sorry the internet let you down, but based on before we went live, I know something else may have let Ken down. So before we even delve into that, because we are going to get his true opinion finally today, I believe. Let's let our guy DP let you guys know where to find us at.
Nerdcyclopedia.com, people, your favorite website where you get all your favorite social media platform. At Nerdcyclopedia, we're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, X, formerly known as Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and also on TikTok. Thank you. Make sure that you are listening to us on podcasts. We're on iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Spotify, Odyssey, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, anywhere that you listen to your favorite podcast. Guess what? We're there. If you're watching us on YouTube, thank you. Smash that subscribe button. Also, hit that notification button so anytime that we're on, you know that we're on. If you're watching us on Facebook, thank you as well. Make sure you join our Carbonite Bounty BS, the Star Wars group, where we talk about everything Star Wars related. So you can get your fill of good memes and all your favorite flavors of Star Wars. All right. Make sure you leave us some feedback too. Nurse at nerdcyclopedia.com. We love getting your feedback and giving it right back at you.
Well said. And what a lead into this week's episode. I mean, or for Ken's terminology, lack thereof.
Was it really an episode, or what did Filoni just build a story around what we all knew was going to happen and decide to make it episode 12? It really didn't have anything in it. I mean it answered.
And you're the eternal optimist, so
it answered a couple questions like what happened to Wrecker? Okay, is Hunter going to be okay? Blah blah blah. Omega's back in jail. Now she's with the other weird kids in the basement. All right, we knew that. We knew all that. I needed to see bigger. I needed to see more. I liked Rampart. I mean, I was wondering what the big secret was. So Crosshair blew his only job. Blew it. Couldn't even put the tracking device on the back of that ship. But he has something else up his sleeve, and he'd been keeping this close to his chest because he doesn't want to go back to Tantus, right?
Yeah.
Would you want to go back to the place where you spent several years of hell? Would you go back there? No, I wouldn't go back there. I wouldn't help anyone get back there. I think we're seeing. The biggest thing was we're seeing a little bit of the diabolicalness of Hemlock, and I think he's going to be in trouble at some point because he's going to be on trial on Coruscant for atrocities and blah blah blah. But I liked it. Like I said before air, I thought this was like 11.5. I mean, I didn't feel like this was an episode. It was what, 18 minutes, 19 minutes? I mean, it was barely 3 commercial breaks on regular television. And it just
this guy.
I watched it a couple times. I'm just being honest. And I love everything Star Wars. I mean, whether you talk about lightsabers or everyone has force ability or, we all have to love Jar Jar. I don't care. I like it's got a place in my heart. But this, I watched it a couple times just to try and get some get some stuff out of it, talking points. Really, there was some comic relief. Okay, the stormtroopers on the top of the Imperial prison. Oh, they want a better assignment. Nope, you're not getting anything now because you've been stunned by the best. And I mean, aside from that and a few other moments, it really was a real Sando, and it just didn't. I didn't think it should have been a double. Like we should have had 12 and 13 together. I don't think this episode stood alone. Now you guys can, if you can find anything with value in this episode, have that.
You've already summed my opinion up. I don't even have to talk, Ken, because I just needed to hear that from you. Because I already knew what this was. You know, it is what it is. There was really no progression. I mean, this was just like you said. It's basically like they didn't cut the other episode off properly, and this is the rest of it. So, this should have been like a part 1 of a part 2, or like, I don't know.
Should have been together. Yeah.
Yeah, it ended weird. Like,
Very.
He says it, we're going to just go see the Abomination, and he drops her with the kids. Like, what the hell is that? Like, that ain't the Abomination. There's kids. Like, so when he said that, I'm thinking like, oh, we're going to find out what this is. And then he's like, oh, no, this is your new home. Like, bro, there's no way you can drop it like that.
Yeah. To build up like that and then just have that at the end is like I don't even know if it's anticlimactic. It's just, we already see them, so we want to see something else.
It's anti everything. It's anti like story writing. Like, who does that? Who does a pan? Who does a broad fade in a pan like that with trash? I mean, it just.
Jeez.
So, what was the Juggernaut?
Man.
Did you have a couple drinks tonight, Ken?
No.
Bro, this is crazy. I can't believe I'm hearing this from you today. I'm serious. I can't believe this.
Why was it called Juggernaut? Where was the ultimate destroyer in this episode?
Yeah, where was the
So I
Juggernaut?
think it's the tank, right? It's the tank. So that this
So
was
that like little what's that thing, like a Sherpa?
yeah.
giant
It's like a big APC. It's like a
They
train.
took that out. They took that out with no problem. The stormtroopers came down and blew up the comms were out, the weapons were out, the defenses were out. They took out the transmission. I mean, that thing was garbage.
Was it the Mandalorian where they already did exactly this?
Basically,
Where they basically had a heist episode. I mean,
with a tank, they did it.
They
I
had
guess-
that with Cara Dune. That's before she left. Remember, that was like their thing on that planet.
Mhm.
yes. Before she was fired for disparaging the Holocaust, which she seems to feel
and it was
not a reasonable reason for termination, right?
It was in Solo too. Solo had a huge.
Oh yeah, Solo had
That's right. That was an actual train, though, not a like a tank train, which is what
tank.
we got.
Well,
we got
it was
this
a
week.
train on very little road. Oh,
Anyway.
and Wrecker had to say, "We're running out of road." Like, geez, I just watched the movie this last weekend that they used that. I mean, Back to the Future. Come on, there's no roads. Where you don't need roads. Must have been Kathleen Kennedy. It was her fault.
So this is like it's just done before, right? And there's a lot of like the Von Ryan Express, where you have Frank Sinatra getting shot, like running toward the the train car at the end and stuff like that. There's this is like the train robbery is like one of the oldest cinematic tropes there is. It's like the first big movie was the Great Train Robbery, literally. And it scared people because they had a film of a train coming at the theater like head on, and it scared everyone. They all jumped out of the way of the train. So to me, this is like it's reductive because they've done it before. You could have found, I think they could have done something more interesting here, and they could have done anything. This prison it's a prison constructed specifically for it to be where Rampart is. It's not like it's connected to anything else. They've never been there before. It's not like they have an inn. It's just some Imperial facility. It could be anything. And when we've seen so many awesome weirdo looking Imperial installations, especially in Andor, which was like the prime of that, they made everything was really interesting that the Empire did there as far as the architecture. I think they could have done something a little bit more unique for this. So I felt like a rehash of stuff we've already seen, which isn't always bad, but they didn't do anything. They didn't put an extra twist on this at all, right?
They didn't move the story. We still are where we are. Yeah,
and one thing you said, Ken, that I really agree with is this felt like a continuation of last week. Because why didn't the Omega story end with her in that kids the kids ball pit or whatever
in the
Kitty
ball,
Land?
Yeah. Exactly.
Imperial play place.
That should have been like what do they call that? It should have been an epilogue of the
Yeah.
last
Oh, yeah,
episode.
yeah.
Like fade to black and then bring in the scene where Hemlock is escorting her off the ship and
Yeah.
then down into the dungeon, and there you go, and just give her a little pat on the head and a drink of water and send her on her way, and then end the episode.
And another show, this reminded me of another show that was notorious for stuff like this, which was Game of Thrones, where they would be like, okay, here's 18 stories. We're going to show you the little bit, and you never know what's going to end and what's going to pick up and what's in the middle. But that worked on Game of Thrones because there was a lot of other interesting stuff going on that you hadn't seen before and you had to figure out. So even if all that happened was two dudes had a conversation about the wall and the north and the ice, and it felt that that's all that happened in the one story. There was somebody whose head was getting cut off somewhere else. So
Right.
there was something interesting. But here,
That was the bottom line. Someone was getting their head cut off, so you could.
That's why we showed
appreciate
up.
Everything else, right? That's why.
Sometimes it was a lot of people, which was really interesting, and sometimes they got it blown up. But this show, this particular episode, does not feel like it moves the ball anywhere. Like it doesn't really change the relationships between Hunter and Crosshair and Wrecker. Those are the same as they were when they came in. Rampart is an interesting callback, but again, what makes him unique? What makes him memorable? There's nothing. His punishment. Like you would think at a high level, a public level, that Sheev Palpatine's punishment for this dude would be almost like tailored like the devil to be the worst possible thing for him. And sometimes I think, that would have been an interesting dynamic to find in this installation, which again is just my complaint is that it's not was not unique enough. And I'm going to forget about this episode. I've already kind of forgotten about it a little bit. I'm just kind of lumping it in with the ones from last week. So it's the weakest of the batch so far, but I think it says something good that we've gotten to like episode 12 before we've really been like, this one, you could have skipped me with this. Just fast forward it.
But isn't what's scary is where it took us this long to get to a real, not a real dud, let's just say, but we're at the end.
Yeah.
At the end, this is where things are supposed to be like, oh, okay, all right, cool, here we go. Now we're in the right direction. We shouldn't get this like
this episode. To me, it was like it was the like Hitch said, though, probably the worst of what we've seen. But it's okay. It was okay for a Bad Batch episode, at the very least, considering what we got this season. It wasn't a thing of the week or whatever. It actually had something to accomplish, based on what the plot mechanics of it was. They're trying to get Omega back, or trying to find Tantus and everything. So it was all relevant to the plot. It just sort of a bit, and you probably could have just skipped this episode and just went to like the next and stuff, But for a Bad Batch episode, I thought it was okay, Of course, we would have rather had like more plot, more like, okay, where is this going? The end, like T Mitch said, was sort of like, okay, well, we already seen this place. So what we have Omega being introduced to this place. How are y'all going to have that be the end when Omega has all this stuff to actually, do and find out and all that stuff, They could have did several things to make this a lot more interesting. For us to see the children all over again was just a little bit, come on now, But overall, I mean, it was a plot moving episode and everything. So I'm not too disappointed we got it in episode 12, considering we got 13, 14, 15, and that's the end. But mathematically, you were going to have a clunker, out of one of these episodes this season.
It's weird that they tend to come in this setup position where it's almost like it's like a pacing issue. Like they have this little rump they have to figure out in the plot, and they have to spend a whole episode on it, and it doesn't make sense. But here, like even for instance, and I was thinking about this when you brought up the kids, right, in the play place, they didn't even change like the they didn't even change the number of kids in the play place, or like there's a missing one, or like, where's this, or they're showing us something that's happening in the background. It's just the straight up piece of information. So that's my complaint. It's just too straightforward. And it's like, we say things like it's filler and we want to advance the plot, but if you're advancing the plot in ways that feel like chalk, like when the 1 seeds win in the tournament, since we just did the tournament. So when you get the ones roll into the final 4, is that interesting? Is that compelling? So, you want to see a few things that go sideways. Like if Rampart had died in this episode, right? Like that would have been really interesting to me. If something weird, really crazy would have happened. For a second, I thought they were going to kill Wrecker, and I was like, wow, this would be the biggest whiplash ever if they just lulled you to sleep with this whole thing, and then, like, nope, he died on the train. Like, the train killed him. It was a train. Not any of those crazy droids or Jedi, just a train. So, I don't know. When I have complaints, it's always about story structure and opportunity cost and that sort of stuff. But I like, it's not like it was not an enjoyable time. It's just like,
Yeah. You're still around your friends and says that, just not having as much fun this particular day,
We've all been there.
Be around them, on other days.
I mean, it had moments. I mean, there was some cool stuff. I like Fee. I like that that character is going to now be part of the gang. I get this like vibe. Plus, she's got the relationship with Tech, so we all think Tech's coming back. I mean, there were some call outs that I think were worthwhile. We're getting a little more of Crosshair's inner personality, his inner conflicted clone, sort of. But like we were all saying, like at the end, we see the kids again. 3 of them, one of them playing Tetris. I mean, they're not really in any pain. They're not being subjugated. Yes, they're against their will, but they're just kind of chilling. They're all at their own desk. They're basically doing what kids do. All our kids, we send them to school, and that's what they do. They draw
their blood, for the purposes of sustaining an evil entity in life.
When necessary, sure. But we're going to leave the evil entity out because we don't even know yet. I mean, all we've been getting is rhetoric. I mean, I feel like we're being treated like Imperial flunkies, and we're just being told what they want to tell us instead of really giving us the backstory. They're not. This is all propaganda. What we're seeing is Imperial propaganda. We're not seeing anything about really what's going on. We know about the Emperor, but the Imperial populace doesn't know. All they know is they're experimenting on kids. What do we care? We don't know why, but maybe it'll be some Imperial good sometime. Maybe we'll benefit from it.
You are right in that it is very it's very Disney-ish to have this. Okay, these terrible things are happening to these kids, and I guess it's implied they're going to kill them, right? Like that's why it's terrible. But like they're not doing anything to them. You're right. They're just like you said. The one kid was playing Tetris. Like they're kind of like you have to shut up and stay in your room. Like they're not like really nice. It's not like they'd be my pick to watch my kid or anything like that. But from a standpoint, they're safe. They're getting to exercise their force powers. They're never coming back to my house. Everything seems on the up and up about this stuff. But like if they don't kill him, if they just like let him go at the end, is it really, I mean, honestly, is it that bad? Or they just send him back? Wouldn't be that terrible, I guess. It wouldn't be the worst possible thing. And an old man gets to live a little longer. Like, come on, that's not an awful thing.
And they haven't really given these kids a death sentence. I mean, I'm not under the impression that they're going to use them up and then incinerate them. I feel like they're going to have some sort of play. Like, I feel like Emery Carr is one of these kids. Like, that character is one of these kids grown up, assimilated into the Imperial structure, and they got cool glasses, they got like stuff to do, they got iPads, they walk around, they complete missions on a daily basis. Doesn't seem like a bad gig. Like I said, this is all Imperial rhetoric and what's it? Wool over your eyes. I mean, they're not telling us anything. They're not telling us what's going on. We need to know. We're the ones that need to know. I don't care whether the Imperial subjects know. I want to know. So I want to see a little more like what. So experiment on these kids. Let's see it. Let's see what's going on.
And like we
Cut 'em
know the
open.
Empire, like the Empire doesn't exactly have a light touch. Like we know that. You know what I mean? Like we've seen it what an Imperial labor camp really actually is with the crazy electricity and just punishing people randomly no matter what happens. Like, you know, somebody like they have a pain quota they have to meet no matter what, right? Like it's just ridiculous. So for that, none of that to, you know, not all of that's here. It's weird. Like, why are they, you know, don't really have a tight lid on these guys. And it doesn't feel like it's being presented in juxtaposition to those things. It's just being presented as different, which is weird because Rampart, again, like, you know, what did Stalin do to Trotsky, right? And what would Stalin have done to Trotsky if Trotsky was available to him, right? It wouldn't have been nothing. And it wouldn't have been just regular old prison. It would have been something really terrible. You know, that's just kind of how those things go, is when you're an enemy of the state, you tend to have an unpleasant death unless you take care of it yourself. That's just what history tells us, right? You just don't want to be an enemy of the state or have your enemies get a hold of you. That's why a lot of Romans would commit suicide if they lost battles. Japanese samurai, same deal, right? Similar deal. So, you know, they could have been more interesting with the prison here. They could have shown me something a little bit different with a little bit of a flavor. And I don't know. I saw two prisons and neither one of them were.
Think about Rampart's life. He's partnered with this alien that he does not understand. And he will not take any effort to understand or learn this creature's language. He's probably been with this guy for, I don't know, years. How long are we talking? He's got a full beard. His hair is completely brown. He's definitely going gray. He's aging. But that's his hell. I mean, he wants people to understand him. And here's this creature that he can't understand and can't understand him.
Well, like think about
torture.
Something, for instance, like this is what I'm thinking, like Nebula in Avengers, when Thanos has captured Nebula and has her all like vivisected and dissected, all her parts are out, and he, you know what I mean, like, and he just like messes with her all the time, like just tortures, like that sort of thing is the type of thing that a crazy, immortal, vengeful, evil entity would do, you know, for kicks. And probably because the dark side, it makes, you know, gives, you know, dark side power, some sort of evil dark side power. So that's why I think, you know,
evil dark side. What are you talking about?
I mean, okay, not all dark side users are constantly doing evil things, and sometimes, and a dark side user could do a nice thing for someone, like give their parents a job, or bulldoze a planet that was in the way of their highway or something like that. I don't know. Or is that a difference? That's a different series. Anyway, I don't know. This is one of those ones where it's like you could have. It's like when you turn in a project and you obviously like had other stuff going on, and you're like, you know, you're gonna get a C+ or something like that in it, and you're just like okay with it because
we gotta fill an episode, so let's just fill it with some action. And you know, just what striking me how much Wrecker and Hunter, and we spoke about this previous episodes, how much they don't really have a lot to them, a lot of personality, a lot of, you know, a lot some things that connect us to them. I mean, Crosshair has that tenfold, you know, Omega has that tenfold, you know, but Hunter and Wrecker, you know, they're archetypes, you know, or types or whatever, you know, and they're just there as it just struck me that this episode, the way it was structured, in a way that it was executed, how much those two really didn't have too much to bring personality wise to like the table and everything. So
they didn't add much to the story. They just kind of floated along. Now it's interesting.
Press this button to shoot here, you know.
Yeah.
This thing.
And you don't think Wrecker has a pretty fleshed out personality? I mean, almost.
He's a joker. He's a joker, but that's all he is. You know, he's like the comic relief. You know,
he's the one that comes in and blows stuff up. I mean, he's got to be a little bit kind of.
He's definitely the one that's happiest with his lot.
But you know what? But you know what? It's not the flaw, because the Bad Batch are pretty much made where they don't have any type of history. You know, the only type of history that they have is with themselves together and that they're clones. It's not like they, you know, came together to form like a team or whatever, you know, or had like a background with like wives or children or anything. Is born on this planet, or, you know, born on that planet or whatever. You know, they pretty much have all the same history, and you know how they develop different, you know, personalities based on them being together all the time. You know, God knows what or whatever. But I mean, it's just funny that that's the conceit you have with the Bad Batch. You're gonna get what you get. With Crosshair, he had to go through his thing with being with the Empire and then coming back for us to really invest and really, you know, have more of a fully formed, you know, arc and everything. We don't really have that with, and so does, like I said, Omega to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they've already telegraphed a couple things though in this episode that leads to the ending, right? Obviously, Nala Se dies because she's in jail and she's going to sacrifice whatever she can to get Omega safe. And the
She's
second
not gonna
telegraph,
die. She's going to be like a martyr. I mean, she's going to like
well,
whatever
she's gonna
escapade
die,
she
maybe a
decides to
sacrifice or something,
do,
but yeah,
she's
not
gonna
make
go
it
down.
over.
Go to the plane. I'll keep him
Right.
here. I'll hold him back. You
Right,
guys
but-
go. We can all go. No, you guys go.
Right,
Right,
but that'll
and
be
that's,
telegraphed.
and that's what she sounds like
Clones.
too. That's
Yeah.
exactly what she sounds like, and how she would deliver the line. Yes, you go. I will stay here and burn.
Yeah, and obviously Emery, something happens with her as well. Like, and Hemlock's already noticing it, so that's already telegraphed because he keeps asking her, Dr. Carr, like, "Are you okay?" So this is already telegraphed that he knows he's on to her already. So something happens with her as well. But I mean, like, I don't know. I don't know if it's just like tropey, and we've been watching so many tropey things lately that's like, I don't know. It just this show, this back end, this ending. It's almost like after seeing this episode and watching it, it's kind of like anticlimactic almost. Like, you know what I mean? It's like easing into like we talk about the roller coaster ride, and it's just like not like I don't know, enthralling like I would expect it to be. You know what I mean? It's almost like
Well,
But you know
would
what?
have happen? What would you have happen at this point after all of this?
well, I mean, like
Well,
the
I'll-
bounty hunter, he just drops her off and like walks off. So like, how do you not like? There's too many characters, and there's 3 episodes, and there's a lot of storylines we have to get through, and I don't think there's enough time.
That turns into a real uncashed check if there's no.
It does.
If there's no more about it, it's just he's just an angrier clone. Like he's just
Right?
he's just a more true believer clone. He's really do time for the Emperor, right? Really do some really grimy stuff for the Emperor, not someone who's either resurrected or like even like a clone of Crosshair or something like that, where it's just a different weird, like a weird thing the Emperor did that was just messed up, or like this Crosshair is just like a decoy or something like that, something weird, right? We should get something weird. That's what I want, is something that's going to be like a little bit of a left turn there and kind of mess with my expectations. But you're right. I don't think we're really going to get that. I think my one question is like, why do they need Omega herself there? Like, why can't they just do another clone and be like, you know? And if you're already threatening now, let's say, why can't you make her just make another clone? I don't know. Like,
we talked about earlier in this season, if they allow Omega to get kidnapped again, that's just repeating, like, you know, just doing like the same storyline that you did earlier and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. And I was sort of expecting Omega to have a plan for them to find her, or you know, and be a plan in order for them to find her. She
but
put
that
her
really was her plan. Like her plan really was Crosshair shooting that thing at the plane, and it failed. Like that wasn't like one of those Buffalo things where it's like, oh, now that opens them up because they're not looking.
Is it's like, so the execution of what the writers wanted to do. I don't know. I don't think that was a well executed or not executed. The great decision for them to go that direction, for him to fail to do that. You know?
I think you're right. I think you're right, DP. I think but I'm looking at this, and I think I might say something positive about the episode. So we got real insight into Omega, and that she's selfless. Okay, she's willing to put herself into harm's way to benefit others. Crosshair
Did
said
we
it.
not know that before?
No. No, not this big. She gave her life for this entire planet. For all three, and that Crosshair said it, the Empire would have destroyed this entire town, and she stopped that. So she's powerful. She's powerful, and she gave up everything. She didn't have to. She gave up everything to save all those people in that whole town. Shep, his daughter, because you got to remember, there's a connection there. There's a emotional connection between Shep and Shep's daughter and Omega. Because she's gonna come back again, and she couldn't have done that if the Empire destroyed that town.
See, I don't know. That's where I'm indifferent on this show, because like we've seen time and time again, the Bad Batch like outwit the Empire, and that's why like this clone who leads this like brigade that takes away all shipping ports, all means of communication, all ways of escape, and then the guy just like walks off. Like no clone can do that. None, other than one of these Bad Batch type clones, right? So, like the fact that you're saying like they couldn't have did this, they've done this the last 3 seasons. You couldn't tell me they couldn't find a way to hijack a Star Destroyer or get into a TIE fighter or something. Like now we're making these guys at the end of the show seem incapable. Like literally, Hunter's like a perfect soldier, and he just it just you know what I mean. It just makes him look dumb.
Ken, you were talking about that smuggler's cave? Was it you that was talking about that smuggler's cave? How
yeah,
they ought to get a camera out there. Yeah. Like there's, and then once again, the smuggler, they still don't know. So
yeah,
like,
they have no idea that there's this cave. It's on the backside of a mountain. You'll never see it from the town side.
Don't worry, I'm parked in the cave.
You parked in the cave. I mean, and why not put like some sort of a camera there with a motion sensor, and every time like a new ship lands in there, maybe we should go check this out.
If all that technology existed in this world or in the Star Wars world,
like something that would like give you a notification on your like armband hardware, like something for the gauntlet, on the gauntlet that would go beep beep beep. Oh, someone just parked in the cave. We should go see who it is.
Right,
probably a smuggler. It's probably not somebody that we want here.
Right, it's probably not somebody we want here. So why don't we go dispatch them immediately? Right, but like you're saying, T. Mitch, this is it's like the Bad Batch are stupid all of a sudden and can't think. We were seeing them think 3 or 4 steps ahead of their enemy. Now they can't even think themselves out of a.
That's really confusing to me, Ken. Like they seem like I almost had a plan until when Crosshair missed. All of a sudden, everything's just like, come on now.
Fell apart. Everything fell apart.
It's like when what was it? Was the Seahawks and the Patriots in the Super Bowl, and the Seahawks threw the ball from the 1 yard line with like almost no time left, and the Pats intercepted it, and the game was over. It's just exactly like that. Like you do one thing like that, and all of a sudden you put it all on the line right there.
Yeah. And you're done. And everyone expected you to make it, and you had one thing to do.
We're Scott Norwood with the wide right.
Yeah, I think the whole thing, their whole like teamwork thing, all fell apart after Crosshair missed that shot. So maybe this episode that we're talking about, it's sort of that, grinding that home. That now the Bad Batch are kind of vulnerable, and we're going to see them maybe not succeed as much as we are used to seeing them get over on their adversaries.
I tell you one thing, Tech. So if he's supposed to come back, I would say that he better not come back that very last episode, and that's it. I mean, this is a series finale. I mean, the final.
It's so tropey, though. You already know. You're already saying what's going to happen, though. Like it's going to be the last.
I mean, it should be like right at the end. The last 3 episodes are. Our team just, back together, and they're going against the Empire and everything. Don't just bring them back in the final episode and just have it just like that. I mean, it's only going to be a half an hour long. We know it's not going to be anything extended, and then that's it.
Well, put it this way. You have to think about this. As of right now, how that ends, we still have no idea how to get to Tantus. So the whole next episode is them going to be trying to extract how the hell to find it. So that leaves 2 left. The next one is, guess what? Their route to Tantus. So that only leaves the finale of them getting there. So it's already like telegraphed. They laid the breadcrumbs. Next
So
episode is
you think it's going to take a whole episode for them to travel? Like they get the coordinates and like, oh, come on, can't they fold space?
They're not going to get there in the next. They're not going to get there to the final episode.
Well, that would be trash because that episode.
I'm letting you know. I'm just letting you know.
It's a big secret to keep, you know. I know the galaxy is real big and stuff, but not. I mean, this is a pretty mega sized installation. It'd be like not knowing about Area 51 or NORAD or something like that. Like nobody ever finding out about it.
Right, you live right next to it.
Yeah, like it's right over there.
Right there. It glows. It glows in the middle of the night. You know, green phosphorus. We see it right there. Yeah, exactly.
So what is the final thing with this then? So we know the Bad Batch isn't going to defeat the Empire. Is the whole purpose of them just to rescue Omega?
Tarkin.
Yeah.
Tarkin. You remember the conversation between Tarkin and Hemlock?
Destroy that facility and, based on what they're doing?
Oh. It's going to be that they're going to blow up the facility and maybe the clones or maybe a couple children get out, and that'll be it's going to be some like
in the Palpies,
correct.
big.
That's what all this is going to be.
Maybe that's why Snoke's all messed up. That would be a payoff, right? If they show you the vault and Snoke's in there and he looks normal, and then they blow up the whole building and he's like, it's all messed up. And they're like, oh, that's why. Like that would be cool. I'd buy that. I'd buy that album.
Right at the last minute and a half, that's what happened, and then it ends.
It just shows Snoke in there all messed up. And Palpatine's like, my perfect clone.
Yeah. Now, based on how this is setting up, they're not making it to because we just have way too much to do, and if they're doing these 20 to 25-minute episodes, we have to figure out what Nala say. We still don't even understand how the hell Emery was created, where she's created. They've laid all these breadcrumbs out of these storylines, and they've just it's just that, and we talk about it all the time with these Filoni stories. It's like he has all these ideas in his mind going, and he starts branching all this stuff off. He almost gets scatterbrained, right? And he gets excited, and he throws all this stuff out there. And then we're at the end of the season, like the Mandalorian, like Ahsoka, and it's like this mad scramble trying to get shit all tied together, and it's never tied together right.
It's like he wasted too much time last season. It's almost like too much filler last season. That tech race car episode, right? That's the one. Boom. That cost us.
But it was still. I remember that. I remember that episode. It was still had good characters in it.
They featured him too much before he died. Now
it's
all. And that sound. He's the only one we talk about now. Tech is like.
Yeah,
but
that's what I'm saying. You talk a lot about a dead person, for a fully dead person, for somebody who's not going to come back on the show.
Yeah, let's leave them dead. Let's say I don't want to see this reincarnation of Tech. That's going to be stupid.
I really.
There's a bunch of people I'm glad can't come back. So I'm with you on that, my man.
And I think we're going to see some sort of dialogue between Tarkin and Hemlock. I think that scene was too important that they're not going to come back to it, because this is it.
I think
if they destroy Tantus, what is that seal? What is that seal? Whose fate is sealed with that?
I don't think that's Tarkin. I think that's going to be like the Emperor choking the hell out of him, or maybe even see a Vader scene of somebody this is he's going to get choked out by somebody. I feel like if this goes wrong.
See, there's ways they could make this awesome. Like if they go to the vault and it's a clone of Anakin just floating there, and they're trying to get that M count going, and you're like, oh my god, what a misdirect! And Vader shows up, and it's actually, you know what I mean? And it's just Vader finds out about it, and he's the one that crushes it or something.
So it's an Anakin clone floating in floating around.
So most likely it is a Palpatine clone, a straight up, Palpatine clone. It should probably be Rey's dad, right? That's who should be in there. But as to whether that's actually going to be, it'd be 30 years old by the time Rey's born. That makes sense, right? On the timeline.
Yeah.
So that's probably what it is, or it's just a regular clone of Palpatine. But it could be anything else, and they're being cagey about it, and they're giving it the Pulp Fiction, just show your lit up face when they open it sort of treatment. So it could be something totally and completely wild and out of bounds, that like just a clone of Anakin's body that Palpatine was like, you know what, I was just going to steal his body anyway. that's how the Sith work. Then we'll just build a new one, and if we can make it the same midichlorian count as Anakin Skywalker, well, that'll be like driving around a Ferrari or a Countach or something along those lines. So that would be interesting, but there's a lot of things they could do to make it interesting. I just hope they do one of them instead of none of them, like in this episode. Where
what would be the worst? What would be the worst thing to finally see? What would you would be so repulsed you'd probably just throw up, right?
If I would throw up if it was like another Omega clone and they were like, nope, she really is important. Like, we're still doing this. We're still doing it.
That would definitely suck. I was thinking like, what if it was just like a robot? It's not even human. It's just a robot that he's trying to make.
Describing the Dark Troopers, like from Mandalorian. Like, this is what the origin. This whole series was the origin story of the Dark Troopers.
Yeah, the whole thing, and it ended up being just a robot, like C-3PO, but with force ability.
C-3PO would be the worst thing to find.
I would rather have them focus more on the Bad Batch as a group and just die at the end, just sacrifice themselves or something, to just focus on just them instead of any type of rescue or whatever. We get like all these adventures and stuff. Everything is so focused on like the Empire, sort of like you already know where the Empire is going. It's not getting defeated. You know what I'm saying? So how can we see these characters live out their lives in the galaxy and stuff? What are they going to do after this series ends?
Like they did with Rogue One. Rogue One was just what you're talking about. 100%. Everybody died. So we didn't have to worry about it. We didn't have to worry about what happened next with them. So, yes, let's see them all go. And then Emery and Omega are flying off into the sunset, safe.
Omega definitely makes it out of here. She has her own show written all over this, like, whole. It might not be soon, but like she has the fact that she's going to get a show written all over this. Like,
she's 30 years old when the in the original trilogy setting, we know she has some sort of midichlorian potential, and she is literally the twin sister of Boba Fett. So you would imagine, there's a lot of places she could show up. So 30 years old in the original trilogy era makes her about 40 years old in the Mandalorian era, and in her late 70s in the sequel trilogy era. So probably not there. So we'll probably see her and Dr. Carr. And they're ticketed to be mother and daughter. Like, they would pass, obviously, because they're going to look very similar.
And that would be a great cover. That would be a great cover. No one's looking for that.
Yeah. Right. So the real question is, like, so that's what the rest of the series has to do. It has to answer a couple questions. What's going to happen to the clones? I think that was one of my main questions when we started this series. What's going to happen to these guys now that the Civil War is over? More specifically, what are the conditions for Omega moving forward? Is it like a mystery what happened to her? Is it something weird? Is it something we can expect? Will we know, like, okay, the next series is her and Ventress running around or something like that?
Yeah, that's another one. How do you just like
drop her? Oh, she's alive. Sorry,
and
then another resurrection.
Yeah, seriously.
Crazy.
So that's like, you can't. She has to come back. So like,
they waited and they had to wait all that time to bring lightsabers and the Force into it to like just. Never mind, we're done.
We're not complaining, but those are like some of the main. It has to answer these questions about this Project Necromancer crap. You better not pass that off to another series, or you better answer that stuff.
And that better be 10 minutes of the episode. That's how much time I want them to deal with that. I just thought of something. Just back to the kids again. There were only 3 kids. What about the little chicken hawk baby?
It's nap time.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know. I think that kid should have been out there on the table. So,
like, Necromancer could have clone kids. Like, it could be a clone kid in there. Just give me something that'll interest me while you explain to me what this is, so we can all go to sleep. And then, Hunter and Wrecker probably are short ticketed. You can imagine Crosshair surviving because he doesn't want to, and that's pretty fitting. It's a fitting punishment for his betrayal of his brothers.
I mean, I don't know. You kind of made a great point. Like, why not introduce like the fact that he was looking to have a son or like his offspring? If he's trying to tie this up like he's been, then one of those have to be a son. Because you can't just drop in Ray then in this, whatever. We can't drop Ray in and not explain how his son was created. I mean, and then the fact of, I mean, why wouldn't there be an Omega clone? Think about it. There was like 7,000 Moff Gideon clones, so we know that they can clone people like that at the drop of a hat. So I like the son theory. I think I like that. That makes more sense to where we're going. But yeah, we need to see what this necromancer is. But I don't know. I just don't think there's enough time, and they're just like kind of tap dancing around shit. Like it just, you know what I mean? They're not like ending or like finishing a plot point. They just tell you a little bit about it, and then they're like on to the next, and they're on to the next. Like
right, and
yeah,
and
it's just
to brings it back to this episode, which was a lot of filler for them. They should have been doing a lot more explaining.
You could they like we talk about, like there's 3 episodes left. Like start tying these things off. Like that way the last episode isn't just like all this stuff, all this chaos happening, and they're trying to like tie off storylines. Just start doing things now. Like we could understand what happened with Camino. I mean, they kind of said it about what happened. They talked about it for like 2 seconds on the episode when they was talking about the cloning facility, and I was like, that's it. So I don't know.
So if this project has to also fit into the original trilogy in some way, because the reason Palpatine, there has to be a trigger for Palpatine grasping at power the way he does, canceling the Senate, moving to construct the Death Star, consolidating power, right? All this stuff, he does it all of a sudden. So it'd be interesting if there's some sort of trigger to that we'll explore. Like he thinks he's going to have this clone, and then he does a test on the sun, and none of the stuff works because it's midichlorian count's too low, or he's just like stubborn or whatever. And he just, it doesn't work. So it's weird that he's like a disappointment. There's a lot of stuff they could do. I hope they do something interesting with this. So I feel like now, to me, those are the things they got to do to stick the landing. And I do want to know, like, if there's some clone extermination policy or what happens to these guys, because it seems like there's still a lot of them in the mix. And obviously, by the time we get to original Star Wars, none of them are in the mix. Or if they are, they're not differentiated.
I don't think there's a policy specifically. I think they're just given a certain like a expiration date that needs to be adhered to. And when a clone reaches that expiration date, like when they start to think about having a family and growing old and retiring, that's when they get rid of them. I don't know. I know that happens, but I don't think I need to see it. I don't need to see that part. I kind of figure that's what's going to happen. It's what they seem to do. They discard the older, worn out versions. I don't know that I need to see that in any of these last couple episodes. That's just me.
Yeah.
Y'all might want to see that, but seeing clones exterminated, I don't know. We've been.
I mean, it doesn't have to be that. They just have to answer, like, is there some sort of settlement? Why are there no clones in the Imperial Law? Why did they go against clones? That sort of thing. Just something like that.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, all roads lead to one different show. I mean, it's apparent we're not getting a Luke Skywalker series. So while we're on this dark side kick, let's just do this Palpatine series and like kind of like get this all tied together. There's enough actors out there that play the role, and I think as we venture towards Acolyte here in the next couple of weeks, after the Tales of the Empire, which in turn is more dark side stuff, like we need to know like kind of what's going on with, what I mean? It only makes sense that we get this point of view from the Empire, and there would be no better character than Palpatine to be able to see his ascension.
And that's what it's called, Palpatine.
It should be, yeah. That's all it should be, just Palpatine.
Did someone say Palpatine?
Somehow Palpatine returned.
Somehow they're going to make that series.
They're going to make that series, and that's going to be the intro. That Poe Dameron clip is going to be the intro. That's the opening soundtrack, everything, opening theme. Boom, they'll play that, and then it'll just start. And I think we pick up Palpatine in high school. I want to see him throwing like the teacher against the wall because she gave him homework on Friday. You know, I want to see, because at some point a decision was made in his head to go a certain way. I want to see that point. I mean, think about where he's at now. He's been around for hundreds of years. We know, maybe thousands. So, but he made a decision.
We talk about Palpatine on here way more than Darth Vader, who I thought was like the original big bad and everything. He's just a peon compared to.
Palpatine, like, think about it.
Just like everybody else. He's a clone. Vader was a clone, just like everybody else.
Palpatine betrayed arguably one of the greatest Sith masters and basically killed him in his sleep. Like, you know, he studied him, he learned from him, and he literally killed off his own master. So that's really where
it should work, because then the master assimilates into the apprentice.
Yeah, but the rule of two, but think about it. The rule of two never even worked at that point because he became so like strong that nobody can take him down. That's the crazy thing. Vader? Palpatine. That's what made him almost that. You know, when they talk about that Sith ultimate or whatever at the end of episode 9, like he was like literally like all of the Sith wrapped in one. Like he couldn't be.
He's sort of the OG evil. So there's different rules. Different rules apply when you talk about the highest demigod in this world, or the lowest. Let's say we're talking about the dark side. So he's omnipresent. His evil has been there always. He didn't make a decision. He's always been a jerkbag.
He's like that demon from that, man, what was that movie? It's a Denzel Washington movie.
I thought you were gonna say Supernatural.
No, James Gandolfini movie. James Gandolfini's in it. Denzel Washington. There's a demon that jumps by touch. It jumps from person to person to person to person.
Oh yeah. What's that called? It's called touch, isn't it? Something.
I can't remember. It's James Gandolfini says that time is on my side.
They brush up against people on the sidewalk, and they move from.
Yeah,
but it was. I mean, that was the devil.
Yeah, so the Sith is like, he's like a demon. So like when the apprentice kills the master, it's because the apprentice has become powerful enough to do that, and therefore the apprentice body and apprentice personality is more powerful than the master. So you just good time to just copy over whenever you have the better, when you know for a fact it's better.
Palpatine is above that. I mean, he's been doing the bad for longer than anybody. So
we don't know how long the average tenure of a Sith Lord is to be at the top of the heap. It could be 150 years, like, because they could be looking for species that live forever.
Yeah, and isn't Palpatine like, he's not a master? He's not a Sith Lord. In any respect, he's the Emperor. He's above all.
That is correct. It would be improper to title him a lord, as he is the sovereign. So he would be His Excellency Sheev Palpatine the First,
the only.
Yeah, you know, it's crazy though. Like when you think about, he's the ultimate embodiment of the Sith. Like, man, that just makes episode 9 even more tasteless. So then that makes Rey the ultimate embodiment of the Force. The light side, man, do me a favor.
Not Luke, who was still around.
Right, like movies, come on now, yeah, right.
Or Leia, who was also still around in all those movies. She didn't die until 9.
The part about it is, bro, he has the bloodline. So
the bloodline. Oh man,
he has the bloodline. Like that whole, like, you know, when we get into this story, like it's just
the midichlorians, right? He's got that in his blood.
So because as Hitch said, for this show to pay off correctly, that would have to mean that the Omega experiment had to happen, because the midichlorian transfer to his son would have had to been strong enough for him to hold on to the Force. Because think about it, if they're saying Rey would be the perfect embodiment, Rey would have to have the highest M count. But she's not she was not created from a real person. She was created from a clone, and her mother wasn't Force sensitive. So
we
like,
don't know.
What I mean?
We don't know anything about her mother, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't know. We know that her mother was married to this Palpatine son. But I mean, the mother's identity is unknown. Very well could be Omega. She'd be
Yeah.
the right age for that. If you assume Rey is born about 20 years after the Battle of Yavin,
How
Mega will be
crazy
4
would
years old.
that be, though? That will make it perfect, though, because of the M count they're talking about. The fact that she can maintain the levels, and then you mix that with the Palpatine. I mean,
That makes it an Insidious plot. You see, that's interesting because it gives us new information about something we know without changing the facts of it, which were presented to us, and it kind of fixes, which is a big problem, which is that just brought that up at the last second, and it really wasn't in all the other movies, so you just have to pretend like it was. So this puts some of that earlier, which is very necessary when you're making stuff up as
see,
you go
guys,
along.
we have some fan fiction. We create fan fiction live on air. We've created some fan fiction live, some subplots. That's an interesting theory that we can look into because that makes Rey make more sense as far as where this insane power level comes from.
You know what else is interesting that I'd like to see them get into is why does Palpatine have more aliases than anybody else? I mean, that guy seemed to have he had a Chancellor alias, he had a Darth Sidious alias that was completely different, and then he was the Emperor also. Who else had that many?
You know who else had a Chancellor alias?
Oh, him? Really?
Yeah.
But that was it. Chancellor.
Well, he was Chancellor, and then he was in charge of everything, just like someone else. Started a war and invaded his neighbors.
Invaded his universe, you mean?
Perpetrated a genocide. All right, that's enough. But I there's a lot of things they could do, right? But they got to do something. They can't just end. They can't just move forward. I want something that's going to change my understanding of some piece of the big story and understand how this piece fits into it. Because Kaminoans episode 2, my thoughts on that episode are that it wasn't that great. So this could also maybe rescue that by giving the Kaminoans a good ending. But again, you can't. If this is the standard we're going to get, then it would be a very disappointing ending. So I'm thinking this is just they had to set it up a certain way so that they had Rampart, and they couldn't figure out a way to do this without Rampart doing it or something like that. And they just were like, "What should we do? Just stick a tank in there. What? Well, we need more runtime. Put some
Put the
stormtroopers
tank up on the mountain. Yeah, make the tank go around the mountain on a really narrow road.
Okay, now we're running.
Not really a road.
Right. Yeah, I don't know, guys. I mean, I guess the first and only anticlimactic, hopefully, episode of this run we've had, guys. So
It was bound to happen.
It was bound, yeah. We were due, right? It's been a great run, much like Purdue, right? We made it to the national championship, and looks like we got blown ass here. So it happens, right? But we're down to the final. We're down to the final 3. We're in the final 4. We're down to 3 left. So.
And then there's no more Star Wars again until literally the next Wednesday.
Until the following Wednesday, with what I think will be a banger, man. Wow, what a way to
Can't wait.
I mean,
We just we're not getting weeks off. It's okay. I mean, Star Wars is going to Star Wars. We're just coming here every single week. I mean, we must do 45 episodes a year. It's
We
awesome.
must love talking about Star Wars.
We enjoy it.
Or something.
Or we just don't have anybody else that wants to spend time with us.
Exactly. Probably not. Yeah, but
So we decided
no, guys.
to do it in front of this computer.
Right.
Just me and Boba Fett all night long. Me and Boba Fett hanging out.
Speaking of, I think a Black Series helmet comes out soon for the Galaxy crew. I think this is a Rex helmet. Rex comes out soon. So
My Stormtrooper helmet got pushed off a month.
yeah. So
Weren't they doing that to cars recently? Like, did they do a restocking fee to you, like where they had to, to get on the list where you get the helmet, or
No.
did you have to
Not-
bribe somebody?
So yeah, every once in a while.
Rex comes out next Tuesday. So this coming Tuesday. So I should have it next Tuesday. It'll be at South Hill at Best Buy Tuesday. So I don't know if I'll go pick it up or not. Yeah, Best Buy sells them.
Don't they but aren't they those ones that are like a little bit weird? Like it's not a Rex helmet, it might be a Tex helmet. It's a little off.
I like all the helmet designs. I'd get a tech helmet. I get I get a helmet.
I need that Wolf helmet is what I need, but they'll never make that one. That was so sweet. And another character who just comes and goes. That's what I'm talking about. Like, there's just so much that they do in these series. But we can go on all night talking about it, and we got to let you guys catch up as well. I'm sure I didn't even see the episode suggestion because I turned them off, so it didn't suggest anything to me. I literally just turned the shit off. The credits turn on.
You know what the suggestion was for me? Mickey Mouse Clubhouse.
Oh, wow.
Which made complete sense to me based on the way I initially reacted to the episode. Like, I might as well just watch Mickey Mouse Clubhouse now because I've just seen the Clubhouse. So
And they were Mickey Mouse in the whole episode.
the whole episode was Mickey Mouse. I might as well have been looking for hidden Mickeys instead of watching for Star Wars content.
Wow, guys. I'm glad we had this episode. I'm glad everybody's heard Ken's true vision. He will not be getting invited back to Star Wars celebrations post this. So,
For the next 80 years.
So welcome to the club.
Your name's on a list.
Yeah, your name is now on the blackballed list. So welcome to the club, Ken.
If he doesn't watch it, he may not get invited back to Disney.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't blame this on Kathleen.
You're not allowed to watch Star Wars anymore, Ken.
I'm glad you brought up Kathleen because I was watching another one of my favorite franchises, Back to the Future, and Kathleen Kennedy was exec produced each one of those.
Is she? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You better watch out. This is going to be the only way you'll be able to watch Star Wars. It's on the VHS set from 1998.
Now that's the full screen. I have the silver box that has the widescreen version of that special edition.
Well, this was a gift. That's why.
Yeah, you would have bought the silver one because it was $5 more.
That's why.
Nice. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody, and I cannot wait till next week to hopefully we get back to these 10 out of 10s or 10 out of 10 episodes. But until next week, guys, this is the way.
This is the way.
Way.